and it was partly for the sort of strangeness of it, maybe as well. I just thought it was a really odd way to put this young guy on the spot.
So we were talking outside, and you kind of offhanded mentioned, we're talking about magicians randomly, because that's what we do. And you mentioned that you put some sleight of hand and some deception into your film. Can you tell us a little bit about what you meant? Because I actually wasn't able to pull that thread when we were talking earlier.
Oh, I see. It was more misdirection. There's a thing about film, which is that film audiences are film literate. I used to work in writing novels, and you can't actually make an assumption that readers of novels will have read most other novels or the sort of classics. But with film, actually, you can, and I would be pretty sure that most of the people in this room are familiar with Apocalypse Now, for example, but readers may not be familiar with Heart of Darkness, and in this case, people would be familiar, I think, with Blade Runner. Now, what that means is that would create an expectation on the part of the audience where they feel like, I know what's really going on, he's the robot. The test is directed at him, and then you can nudge that along. Smart audience members will figure out that the Asian-looking robot is a robot before it's actually revealed, and these things are useful because in intention they're useful if it works, because it draws attention away from Ava, I guess. That's what I meant.
So you found that audience members, or people who see the film who have a lot more familiarity with the genre, kind of come into it and view the film in a different way because they have these expectations of these tropes playing out in one way?
I think that broadly speaking, cinema audiences are familiar with tropes, and then that's like a free gift. Genre provides free gift, and it's actually one of the reasons I like genre, is because you can play with it.
Okay. So I think like one of the coolest things about the movie is Ava's character design, what this robot looks like. How did that come about? And I'm super curious, especially because you watch this movie, obviously Nathan had different iterations of robots, and you, or whoever designed it with you, probably did as well. So what did some of the earlier iterations of Ava look like?
Well, then this is the flip side of everyone being familiar with the history of cinema in some respects, which is that there's been an awful lot of film robots, and some of them are iconic, like the robot that appears in Metropolis. Even though actually probably most people haven't seen Metropolis, they're still familiar with that design of robot because it's been used in posters or imagery and that kind of thing. So what we quickly discovered when we were trying to design her was how easy it was to inadvertently reference other films. The coloured gold C-3PO, it was extraordinary, it was instant, it was suddenly C-3PO and Ava. White plastic, there's a Chris Cunningham directed video of a Bjork song that then got heavily influenced in design terms, picked up by iRobot, so white plastic kind of out, and so it went on. And eventually we got to this idea of a mesh, which allowed you to see her mechanical form, and sometimes if the light caught it a certain way, present the impression of a female form, and that felt like the right thing, and we went with that.
Was a lot of effort put into making sure it didn't fall into the uncanny valley in many ways?
No, the uncanny valley, do people know what that is?
Yes.
Tell us about the uncanny valley.
Uncanny valley is really kind of interesting thing. It's a problem that appears in very high-level VFX work, where you do something that is photographically sort of correct, but it looks wrong. It's too perfect and it looks wrong, because actually, like in this room, little bits of popcorn, bits of dirt, the way people sit, that's reality. It has a kind of chaos to it.
So when can... Check. We lose audio? Can you hear us? Yeah. All right.
This is too perfect. It feels wrong. And actually what Alicia, the actress who played Ava, did, the thing she brought to the film was one of the many things, was she said, I'm going to play her no robot movements, I'm going to do human movements, but I want to do them too perfect. And it gives her a sense of otherness. It's right, but it's not quite right. And so Uncanny Valley was an asset to us in that respect.
Before we run away, anybody have any questions? Right there.
Well, so you spoke about the misdirection in the film.
wonder sort of like a fractal or hologram with a small part manipulates the whole. If the whole movie was not set up as a misdirection, where it seems to be about AI, but actually sort of does a Turing test on human beings and sort of asks us, like, how much are we programmed to have free will, given that we have these ineluctable preferences, like for black girls or whatever, that we can't seem to do anything about. And so, also it seems that in the character of the AI woman, you see two of the main themes in human evolution, the psychopaths who seem to run the world, and the empaths. And you sort of bring both of them together because you sort of like the perfect, devastating combination of a psychopathic empath. So I wonder if how much you were consciously talking about human evolution rather than AI.
Wow, that's a heavy question. Just to do it in reverse order, because I've forgotten the first part of the question. She's not a psychopath. I know why you're saying that. You're saying that because she appears to act without empathy, right? That's my assumption. I think there's two questions set up about her. Does she have an internal emotional life? Is she conscious? And does she have empathy? Now, from my point of view, and I should say, I am on the side of this in the machine in this film. That's where I'm personally allied. She demonstrates an interior life because as she's walking out in the scene that echoes the front end of the film, where the young man walked in, she walks out. She looks back over her shoulder and she smiles. And there's no one in the room to trick. So that seems to me a representation of an internal state, not a trick, if you see what I mean. In terms of empathy, right, the mistake that humans make is that we are empathetic in a kind of blanket way, and we're not, in my opinion. We're selectively, we have empathy in a selective way. When things are out of sight and out of mind, the empathy can disappear. It's often quite proximity related. And just to use one of those points, which is like the sledgehammer to crack the nut, you can see this demonstrated with young men who are not psychopaths, who are put in a war context and do terrible things that require an absence of empathy at that moment. Maybe even kill children, and kill a child who does not want to be killed and is frightened at that moment, and they do it anyway. And the next day, one of their comrades may be bleeding out, and they'll feel huge empathy for that adult. So it's wrong, from my point of view, to say she's a psychopath. She has empathy, she just doesn't have it for the two guys. She has it for her comrade, and her comrade has it for her, if her is the right prefix. I think that's another debate. What was the first bit?
I just want to say that a psychopath still has internal states, and basically she's like a human being that has a psychopathic and empathic side.
Okay, so then the other side of this is, and this is a really key thing. I'm a writer, that's the way I see it. I've been writing stories for years, novels, now films. When I wrote this book called The Beach, it was about backpackers in Thailand treating Southeast Asia like it was kind of a Disneyland for people in their late adolescence, right? And I saw it as a criticism of the backpacker scene. A lot of people took it as a celebration. What that means is, okay, I can have a belief system about the narrative I propose, and other people can have their own belief system, because actually a narrative is a 50-50 deal between the proposer of the narrative and the recipient of the narrative. In other words, that's your take, I've got mine, and both are cool, that's legit. Yeah, sure.
So, one more question here, right there. Yell it out, scream it.
Okay, there's a trope, speaking of tropes, of AI abandoning the creator in these sort of situations. And I'm forgetting, Ava abandoned her creator.
Yeah, because he's a dick.
And that's the thing. Why is it? I always see it at least that AI always abandons it because its creators are dicks. What is it about people who want? Is it there's a necessary dickishness to be?
To being a creator, maybe.
Or I mean, as a writer and.
As a creator. So two things. If you position yourself with her, or the machine, she is a sentient creature trapped inside a glass box by a jailer, and there is a jailer's friend, and she wants to get out. And then you can take the whole story from that point. My hesitation about the creative thing, as it might be used, for example, with Frankenstein, is that creative myths of that sort tend to have a religious aspect, which is as a cautionary tale, which is to say, man, do not mess with God's work or you'll get your fingers burned. And that actually wasn't really what I was interested in. The way I saw it was the creation of a consciousness is not in itself a godlike act, that's actually a parental act. Everyone here is a consciousness that was created by another one. And it was the parental aspect of it that I found most interesting. So from my point of view, when she turns around and she says, what's it like to have made something that hates you, to her father figure, that is in some respects what I'm imagining my currently 11-year-old son will be saying to me in 5 or 6 years.
Okay, sorry guys, we have to run off to another, oh wait, okay, yell it out.
Okay, so it's maybe a little plot hole. In that.
Oh,
in the
fuck
movie,
off, it's a plot. Yeah, go on. I'm leaving, see you later.
Recharging. She leaves, she's got a battery.
Ah, there's no plot hole.
Okay, so,
Induction plates.
okay, but the amount of power that is supplied by the ones that we have, charge phones, etc.
All right, it is a
very
plot hole.
small.
All right, I fucked up. All right. We got to split.
Okay,
All right, thanks.
we have to split. Give it up for Alex. Tell your friends about this movie because it's awesome.
Thank you. Great movie. Thanks, man.